They're glorious. Let's get to work. Hey, what you doing? Me? Oh, old dog can't get to sleep. Sometimes, the mind wanders. Tonight I'm just thinking of old games that never came to be. Sure, I was around during the early phases of a bunch of trashed game concepts. There was that simulator thing I helped with, the Pokemon thingy they tried to do. Oh, and that stupid pink circle game. Had to power wash my fluff after that one. Welcome to Led by Pixels, the show where you ask the questions, I do a doodle, and then I talk a talk. I got lots to say, since I overcame my open mouth anxiety disorder. So you may have guessed it, today's topic is about the old games that got away. Yes sir, at Chris London Film asks, which cancelled games, if any, did you really want to see come to life? Man, great timing you got there, Chris. The Super Nintendo is being resurrected, Star Fox 2 is getting an official release, and all those wonderful resellers are born again. Isn't that something? To celebrate all this jazz, I'ma tell you about my super duper #1 white whale cancelled Nintendo game that I would love to see released. But before I talk about that elusive jewel, I want to look at some other interesting unreleased Nintendo titles. Today I won't be touching on the more popular buried projects like Earthbound 64 or poor Mega Man Legends 3. I want to dig into a bit of the weird stuff that kind of went under the radar. Like, there's a chance you probably heard about the Resident Evil remake for the Game Boy Color that was canned. The unfinished, nearly complete project was dumped online in 2012. And controls aside, it's pretty freaking impressive as far as bringing the original RE experience to the Game Boy Color. But did you realize that Capcom began a Dino Crisis game in the exact same vein? Yeah, really. It was to be a port of the original PlayStation game. We almost got remakes of two survival horror classics right on a little souped-up 8-bit handheld console. Unbelievable? Well, wait until you see what's next. You'll be rubbing your eyes in disbelief or scratching them out. Do you like oil slick ponytails? Whispered death puns? God-awful acting? Of course you do, said publisher Tech Magic in September of 1993. They cracked their knuckles, hurled a knife into an intern's eye socket, and announced their glorious work in progress, Steven Seagal is the final option. This sloppy crapster piece was set for release on the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis sometime in 1994. Though little evidence of the Sega Genesis version exists, the alpha for the Super Nintendo version was later found and dumped online. And, well, that's pretty much what you're seeing here. Now, let's be nice. It's unfair to pick on a game that's incomplete or purposely left off store shelves. So, you know, the horribly clunky action, jumping, and enemy AI is all forgivable. Hilariously forgivable. Forgivable? No, it's not forgivable. Not having the titular protagonist in the actual freaking game. Oh, that's right. Steven Seagal was not an option, for Steven Seagal is the final option. There were supposedly money issues, so this digitized dude here, this is a women's self-defense teacher. He was paid a few $100 for a 3-hour shoot. Effort, both financially and in time allotment, sets the stage as per the caliber of what you probably could have expected from this had it been released. I don't know, I really don't have much else to say about it. How about you, fake Steven Seagal? My sentiments exactly. Speaking of the piercing screams of the hopeless, how about that new Mario and Rabbids game, huh? I'm just joshing ya. You're all reasonable folks gonna give Kingdom Battle a fair chance before tearing it to shreds, right? Right? Oh. Well, did you know that Ubisoft almost made a game where you could blow the Rabbids' f***ing heads off? That's right. Killer Rabbids from Outer Space was planned in 2010 to be a spin-off of the Raving Rabbids series. I'm not joshing this time. Ubisoft was really aiming to make a speedy first-person horror shooter starring the Rabbids. Take a look. There's plenty of concept art and footage for this Wii U exclusive. The bumbling bunnies went through quite the transformation, getting less cutesy and more cutsy over the development process. As things slowly got more adult in tone, the team behind the game decided to distance themselves from the Rabbids franchise. The game eventually reared its mutated head at E3 2011 as Killer Freaks from Outer Space. But man, these guys still look like dorky Rabbids to me, no matter how slimy they are. Unlike Steven Seagal's opus, This game wasn't exactly cancelled per se. It mutated into a short-lived exclusive for the Wii U. Do you think you can guess what game that is? Let's take a moment to think. That's right, a game that started out as a horror-themed rabid shooter eventually evolved into the slow and somber Zombie U. Let's just hope that our next interaction with these rabbits doesn't leave walking shells of humanity in its wake, for this guy's sake, at least. Sir, tissue? Well, we got a few little buried Nintendo titles out of the way. I think it's time you heard about my #1 hyper super ultra cancelled game that I would love to see revived in some way. Let me tell you a story. There was once a little game system, not quite a handheld, not quite a living room experience. It got picked on in the gaming media, and then, after less than a year on store shelves, it was discontinued altogether. I know, right? Sure, you've heard about the Virtual Boy, its notoriously strange design, its teensy-tiny library of titles, but did you know that there were still a few games being developed for the Virtual Boy when Nintendo decided to abruptly pull the plug on the console? And 2 titles in particular were rumored to be games that could possibly pull consumers back to Nintendo's quirky 3D viewfinder. Psst, word on the street was the games were pretty much finished, too. But the Virtual Boy was dead, and for a long time, things were pretty quiet as far as its unreleased games were concerned. That is, until a glitchy ROM started floating around of one of these titles, Bound High. After plenty of hard work by great folks and members of the Planet Virtual Boy community, a playable version of the Bound High ROM was unofficially let loose on the public. And get this, it's actually pretty decent. In Bound High, you play as Chalvo, a robot that uses his bouncing ability to traverse a variety of levels and squish bad guys. It's arcadey, it uses the Virtual Boy's 3D effectively, and it is, in fact, one of the better titles released for the console. Awesome. But like I said, there was still another game set to be released before the Virtual Boy went belly up. A game that was meant to show the critical audience that that questionable console could be something special. And this is my White Whale Lost Treasure game. It's called Dragon Hopper. Now, there isn't a whole lot of Dragon Hopper video footage out there, and what we do have isn't the greatest, but there is a reasonable amount of information you can find on the game. Here's what we know. Dragon Hopper had exploration aspects, kind of in the same vein of the Legend of Zelda series. The game would have made good use of the Virtual Boy's 3D capabilities, as the main character, a dragon named Doran, hopped up and down through the game's 7 worlds. We also know that there would have been collectibles and secret areas where you could spend coins on magic. Other elemental powers would be unlocked as you ventured forth and rescued fairy spirits. Now, this all sounds pretty cool, nothing mind-blowing, so why am I so hung up on some no-name red and black fantasy action-adventure game? Well, I think what keeps me coming back scrounging for information on Dragon Hopper is the game's history. To me, it's the perfect storm of lost video game. As far as we know, Dragon Hopper was part of the second chance to revitalize the floundering Virtual Boy. It was also a brand new IP by Intelligent Systems, think Paper Mario, Fire Emblem, and this game was just so close to being released. It was ridiculous. I mean, people have played preview builds of this thing. See? Look, remember Bound High, that game that was basically finished and then released by fans online? Nintendo sent out a news release at E3 1996 with Bound High and Dragon Hopper in it. It shows retailer specifications. These games were both due out on the exact same day. Bound High was basically finished, so probably Dragon Hopper was too? Heck, there was a freaking VidPro card made for Dragon Hopper. These cards were used in retail stores in Canada that you would pluck off a shelf, go to a kiosk, and then get your game. They didn't make VidPro cards for games that weren't very super close to being on the market. Sorry, when I consider all this, I go insane knowing that some kind of build of this game hasn't trickled out onto the internet yet. I honestly don't know if we'll ever see this game, complete or not. I hope we do. Who knows, some collector could have a prototype of this thing in their collection, or an unlabeled cart could just be sitting in a box in an attic somewhere. Hopefully someday I'll play my elusive White Whale game. For now, I'll just have to bide my time, keep combing the net for information. Maybe I'll just sit back and play some rotten fish. Fake Steve, you always know what to say to cheer me up. Thanks for watching. Before we wrap things up, I want to do some shoutouts. Firstly, thank you to Unseen64, who graciously let me make use of their amazing archives of cancelled and unreleased games for this episode. They've got an astounding amount of media and information on all kinds of cut game stuff. Go check them out. Also, I want to say a big thank you to the folks at Planet Virtual Boy for letting me use some of their VB media. You guys don't know when to quit. Mad respect. Lastly, I want to show you guys something. Check these out. These are from @RhythmKid, @TheBestChatman, and @KirbyDocsDan. Guys, I love these to death. You gotta know, if you like a content creator and want to make their day, send them something like this. I look at what you guys send me almost every single day. Seriously, it makes me smile and pushes me to keep making stuff. I love it, I love it, I love it. Hey guys, thanks for watching. I'll be mailing out this episode's sketch ASAP. Now, if you dig the show and would like your gaming-related topic or question on the next episode, you can use the hashtag #LedByPixels on the ol' Tweety Twitter. Thanks again, and hope to hear from you soon.